Hello everyone, once again it's Adam, and let's get down with another episode of Hitler History. Now for episode 3, instead of Vienna like I said in the closing of episode 2, I decided that I should elaborate more on Adolf's friend August Kubizek. I feel that Kubizek's story should be told in a bit better depth since it includes some valuable scenes of the young Adolf and his growing personality traits that will show themselves in the next episode when we do get to Vienna. Also, the formatting of this episode is obviously not what it usually is. I just wanted to try something a little different, and since it's so hot, I didn't feel like getting everything set up for such a short episode. But going on, some background info for our August. August Kubizek, known also by his nickname Gusel, was born on, believe it or not, August 3rd, 1888, to Michael and Maria Kubizek, and similar to Adolf, had preceding siblings, 3 to be exact, that died before he was born. His father was an upholsterer, and also similar to Adolf, was expected to follow his father, but wanted to go his own way, that in becoming a musical conductor. August and Adolf would meet in 1905, both in their teens, at one of Adolf's favorite places, that being the local opera, while both waited for cheap standing room, and both immediately clicked for their love of Richard Wagner, Adolf's favorite musician, known for his heroic stories and nationalist pitch, details that made him a favorite of Adolf. Compared to Adolf, August was a highly impressionable fellow, and had no strong convictions compared to his domineering friend, and opposite of Adolf in almost every respect. But August was gripped by whatever Adolf happened to be criticizing or lauding. August greatly admired Adolf's firm expression compared to his own shaky attitudes. Other than the admiration of Wagner, Adolf enjoyed August's company because he listened to all of his oratory, whatever the subject may be. August was a good person to vent to considering Adolf's situation at the time, being at the crossroads of career choices. Between August and Adolf, some highlights that showed the latter's budding personality traits, one already apparent trait being Adolf's dominating conversations such as he did with August. Another highlight being the two purchasing a lottery ticket together in 1906. Showing his unequivocal confidence in their winning the prize, he envisioned a whole apartment for them to decorate and live together in once they had won. But obviously they lost, and Adolf threw a tantrum at how his certainty had been faulty. And as mentioned previously, Adolf's short-lived infatuation with Stephanie, showing his awkwardness when it came to social interaction, such as with a person of the opposite sex. And then the nights spent in Linz where they would patronize the opera in their fanciest attire and stay up late into the night, with Adolf lecturing August the whole time on their evening strolls what buildings in Linz could be fixed up to better suit his tastes, or of their optimistic future success as the great artist and musician. Akin to Adolf, August had his own aspirations that were opposite of what his own father expected. Like Adolf and Alois over the Customs Bureau, August's own father expected him to follow in the upholstery trade. But unlike Alois, Michael Kubizek reluctantly allowed his son to follow his passion after some convincing from Adolf, who encouraged August to follow on his musical studies. Now that both were set to begin their entrance exams, in 1908 they roomed together in Vienna to take the entrance exams for their respective schools, with the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts for Adolf and the Vienna Conservatory for August. In Vienna, they still maintained their routine practices from Linz, with the evening strolls and August listening intently to Adolf's rhetoric on the usual topics of architecture and art. In instances which will be discussed in Adolf's time in Vienna, Adolf would fail his entrance exams, but August would pass and be accepted into the Vienna Conservatory in 1908 and fare well in the school. But once Adolf had failed his entrance exams for a second time, he didn't tell August and abruptly cut ties with him later that year in 1908 as August left Vienna to visit Linz, to which Adolf's rough years in Vienna would begin. August would finish his schooling in 1912 and soon after conduct an orchestra in Marburg, known today as Maribor in Slovenia. Just before the First World War in 1914, he would marry a woman named Anne Funk, and once war broke out, he would serve mainly as a reservist in the Austro-Hungarian army, being wounded once, and after the conflict settled down with a municipal job in Eferding, Austria, and raised 3 kids with Anne. It wouldn't be until the early 1920s when August would hear of Adolf, seeing him in the newspapers right at the beginning of his political career, to which August would follow his friend's political adventure with mild interest. But it wouldn't be until 1938 when the two friends would meet once again. After the Anschluss and upon Adolf's visit to Linz, the two would catch up on a 30-year gap of activity, with them seeing each other for the last time in 1940. Also in 1938, August was hired by Adolf's party to write about his years with Adolf, which August would later expand into a whole book named The Young Hitler I Knew, in 1955, just before his death. But in reading August's work on Adolf, one should hold some reservations on the content when you take into account that he was hired by the party to write about his time with Adolf, and with it being used for propaganda, and based some of his own writing around Adolf's from Mein Kampf. But with what August crafted from his limited memory, it is still handy in seeing young Adolf's traits in the embryonic stage. August would manage to outlive his friend by only 9 years, passing in efforting at age 68 in 1956, leaving his spotty but mostly intact memoirs to a world that would always cite his work in order to further understand the figure of Adolf Hitler. From what we can draw from his experiences with Adolf is that many of his personality traits, except anti-Semitism, worldview, and mission, were evident at an early age before Vienna and the First World War, showing a person that still had to be molded by his experiences in the real world. And with that, we conclude our time with August, and once again focus on Adolf, in what I promise will be the next episode, Hitler in Vienna.